The sky split open at 2:13 a.m. over the frozen silence of the Arctic Circle. There were no satellites watching, no drones patrolling, and no scientists measuring radiation or gravitational anomalies. Just wind howling across ice sheets and a few outposts nestled like scars against the white vastness. Then, a brilliant, soundless flash tore across the upper atmosphere, a searing streak of ultraviolet light invisible to human eyes, but loud and clear on every frequency humanity had ever invented. 3 seconds later, the probe hit the ice. It didn't explode. It landed, buried itself deep into the frozen shelf like a blade driven into flesh, hissing steam and plasma from vents no earthly engineer could understand. The nearest military radar station caught only the afterglow, anomalous heat signatures, electrical disturbances, and something stranger, a broadband whisper in prime number intervals, repeating every 7.3 seconds. By 4 a.m., the world's major powers were on red alert. By dawn, it was clear this wasn't one of ours. Not Chinese, not Russian, not American, not even a black project. It was something else. Dr. Alira Voss had just landed in Tromsø, Norway, when her encrypted phone vibrated again. "Orbit wants you on the ice in 6 hours. The voice on the other end said without greeting. "Helicopters waiting. Bring your kit." And Alira, she paused, squinting into the endless northern twilight. "Yes, don't touch it until we say." The line clicked dead. She didn't bother asking questions. She knew the drill. Orbit, the Office for Rapid Biological and Interstellar Threats, was the kind of multinational agency that only appeared in official budgets as meteorological research or satellite anomaly mitigation. She'd worked with them before, deciphering possible alien inscriptions found on derelict satellites, ancient ruins, and once on the husk of a dead whale beached off the coast of Iceland. But this felt different. By the time Alira arrived at the impact site, the sun was casting its weak, perpetual light across the snow. A perimeter had already been established, modular structures, scanning drones, a small platoon of soldiers in adaptive exosuits. The air smelled like scorched metal and ozone. The probe, if that's what it was, had embedded itself at an angle, shearing through 30 feet of ice and permafrost. It jutted from the ground like a monolith, smooth and black, but constantly shifting in hue, sometimes deep violet, sometimes a dull, pulsing amber. Fractals ran along its length, rearranging themselves as though reacting to observation. "Jesus," Alira whispered as she approached the outer tent. Colonel Anders, head of site security, stood stiffly beside her, his breath fogging the air. "We've never seen anything like it, not even in the 2037 Antarctic incident." Alira turned to him. "Where's it from?" "Unknown. It didn't come from the moon. Not Mars, either. It entered Earth's orbit cold. No emissions, no propulsion signature. Then it dropped like a stone." "What about the signal it's broadcasting?" He handed her a tablet. "You'll want to see this." She stared at the playback. Strings of prime numbers, followed by vector coordinates, and then something stranger. Audio pulses that resembled the clicks of a dolphin, overlaid with complex harmonic intervals. She frowned. "That's not a message. That's a skin pattern. It's looking for something." Inside the ice tunnel leading to the impact crater, the silence was absolute. Even the soldiers lowered their voices as though afraid of waking something. The probe's surface shimmered with soft internal light, and a low hum vibrated just below hearing. Alira set her case down and withdrew her instruments, EM field scanners, nanoscopic samplers, linguistic mapping modules. She placed a hand on the ice near the surface of the probe. Immediately, her tablet lit up. "You seeing this?" she said into her mic. Her assistant, still back at base camp, confirmed. "Confirmed. Probe is emitting on multiple bands, neutrino, gravitic, magnetic. But the patterns are weird. They're changing every time you move." Alira narrowed her eyes. "It's responding to human presence." That's when she saw the symbols. Not letters, not pictures, not even numbers. Something between. Spirals that bent space in the visual field. Geometries that resonated with patterns she'd seen only once before, on a classified dig site in Siberia, where they'd found obsidian tablets buried beneath glacial strata older than humanity itself. It wasn't just alien. It was ancient. Back at camp, the orbit analysts were frantic. This thing wasn't broadcasting a signal. It was recording, one said. You're saying it's a surveillance probe? Asked Colonel Anders. No. I'm saying it's a black box, a passive observer. It's been watching us. For how long? The analyst looked up, pale. The signal fragment includes a calendar system based on Earth's orbital mechanics. It's been here since at least the Bronze Age. The room went silent. Alira sat down, her mind racing. Then what triggered the crash? Possibly damage. Possibly a failsafe. What kind of failsafe? Another analyst turned the screen. We decrypted the final packet. Look at the symbol. Alira stared at the screen. It was a stylized human skull, superimposed over a spiral galaxy. Below it, the alien glyph for Terminate Protocol. That night, as the team slept fitfully in the bitter cold, the sky glowed. A streak of fire burned across the upper atmosphere, another object entering Earth's space, trailing plasma and shadow. But this one didn't crash. It vanished before radar could lock on. In orbit, satellites began shutting down one by one. Deep space listening posts went silent. Telescopes stopped transmitting. The stars above seemed to dim. Alira Voss stood outside her tent, staring up. We triggered something, she said softly. Behind her, Anders approached, his voice quiet. Triggered what? She didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, they weren't just watching us. They were waiting. And somewhere far beyond Pluto's orbit, something was waking up. The world woke to a silence that felt unnatural. Broadcasts across every major city suddenly flickered. Screens went blank, signals dropped, and satellite communications broke down. Phones that once connected billions failed in unison. The digital heartbeat of Earth skipped a terrifying beat. Governments scrambled, trying to explain the unprecedented blackout, but the truth was far more ominous. Humanity's fragile illusion of solitude was shattered. At orbit headquarters, a hidden fortress buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, panic simmered just below the surface. Walls lined with data streams, cryptic symbols, and alien code flickered as analysts worked furiously to make sense of the fallout from the Arctic probe incident. Alira Voss was flown in overnight, this time by secure military jet. She arrived exhausted but resolute, her thoughts tangled in the enigma of the probe. In the central command room, a grim-faced man approached her, Director Marcus Vaughn, Orbit's enigmatic leader. Alira, he said without preamble, the probe you examined has just triggered a chain reaction. The signals we intercepted are not just random broadcasts. They are a wake-up call. Alira frowned. A wake-up call? To whom? Vaughn glanced at the enormous holomap suspended in the center of the room, showing Earth, the solar system, and a web of alien signals traced from deep space. To the Watchers, the species behind the probe, Vaughn explained that Orbit's classified archives had long held evidence of previous alien encounters, fragments of wreckage, cryptic transmissions, and even cryptobiological data hinting at advanced civilizations orbiting nearby stars. But all this was hidden from the public, kept secret to avoid mass panic. We thought we were prepared, Vaughn said bitterly. We had reverse-engineered some technology, tested exotic weapons, trained special operatives. But this, he tapped a button and a series of intercepted transmissions played. The signals were eerily deliberate, complex, patterned bursts of data, with frequencies fluctuating across electromagnetic, neutrino, and gravitic channels, broadcast from unknown points in the Kuiper Belt and Oort cloud, outside Pluto's orbit. The Watchers, Vaughn said, have been silently observing Earth for centuries. They were waiting for a sign. Your probe crash was that sign. Alira's heart sank. But why were they watching us? What could we have done to warrant this level of scrutiny? Vaughn's face darkened. Because they're afraid. Fear. It was not a word humanity was used to hearing from advanced alien civilizations. The typical narratives, humans as prey, as subjects, or as insignificant, were shattered by this revelation. The Watchers didn't fear humans because they were weak. They feared something else. Fear of what? Alira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The unknown, Vaughn answered. And us. Alira's eyes widened. Us? How? Vaughn nodded toward the holomap. Your species' rapid technological and genetic evolution. your adaptability, your unpredictability. We are an anomaly in their calculations, a dangerous one. Elira remembered the ancient patterns etched on the probe, fractals that resembled evolutionary maps, and the chilling symbol of the spiral galaxy with the human skull overlaid. It was a warning, not just for humans, but for anyone who dared to pay attention. Outside the fortified walls of Orbit headquarters, the world was already reacting. News feeds exploded with theories, rumors, and outright panic. Religious leaders preached about the end times. Governments debated whether to declare martial law. Cities prepared for unrest. Stock markets plunged. But behind the headlines, a secret war was unfolding, one fought in shadows and space stations. Orbit Space Command monitored strange activity in the asteroid belt. Massive constructs, gigantic, angular platforms with dark, metallic surfaces that absorbed all light, were detected appearing over days, their origins unknown. They weren't natural asteroid formations. They were alien war machines. Defensive outposts, Vaughn said grimly. The Watchers are preparing to isolate Earth. At the same time, an elite special forces unit called the Starhawks was deployed to reconnoiter these objects. These soldiers were humans modified with cutting-edge biotech enhancements, heightened reflexes, cybernetic limbs, and neural interfaces designed to interact with alien tech. Captain Cale Rourke led the team. Cale wasn't just any soldier. He was a veteran of covert operations and one of the first recruits in the Starscard program, humanity's answer to alien threats. His orders were clear: assess the alien platforms, gather intelligence, and if possible, sabotage their systems. In orbit aboard the stealth cruiser Star Spear, Cale stared out into the void. The asteroid belt stretched before him, a graveyard of twisted rock and shimmering warships. He fingered the insignia on his armor, the golden phoenix rising from ashes, a symbol of humanity's resilience. Looks like they're building a blockade, Cale said, voice calm but tense. They want to cut off Earth's access to the outer system. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Mirachin, studied the holographic map. If they control the belt, they control the supply lines from mining colonies and orbital refineries. Earth's economy and war machine would collapse in weeks. Cale nodded. Then we can't let that happen. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Elira's team raced to decode the probe's remaining data. The alien symbols hinted at a protocol, a contingency plan triggered by the probe's destruction. Protocol? Elira repeated, staring at the scrolling glyphs. One of her colleagues, a mathematician named Dr. Hassan Mirza, tapped furiously on his keyboard. It's a kill switch, a failsafe designed to send a warning across the galaxy if the probe is compromised. The message contains coordinates for a rendezvous point, somewhere deep in the Kuiper Belt. Elira's pulse quickened. What's there? No one knows. But the implication is clear. The Watchers are mobilizing. The next days were a whirlwind. Earth space agencies pooled resources, trying to track and analyze the alien fleet assembling on the edge of the solar system. Scientists speculated about the Watchers' true intentions. Were they conquerors, observers, or something far worse? On every front, humanity braced for what might come. One night, Elira lay awake in her quarters, watching the stars from a small viewport. She thought about the probe, the warnings, and the ancient encounters hidden in history's shadows. The world was on the brink of something colossal, and she felt the weight of it all, this silent war where the first shots had been fired long before anyone knew. Somewhere out there, the Watchers were preparing to return. But Earth wasn't the helpless planet they once observed. Something inside humanity had changed, something deeper than technology or weapons, and that change was about to ignite the stars. The void beyond Earth's atmosphere had never felt more oppressive. Captain Cale Rourke sat in the cockpit of the stealth cruiser Star Spear, staring out at the ghostly outlines of alien war machines slowly coalescing within the asteroid belt. The cold shimmer of distant suns was swallowed by the shadow of colossal constructs, dark, angular, and terrifying in their silence. They weren't just machines, they were a message. Cale's fingers hovered over the controls, but his mind was elsewhere. He replayed the mission briefing, the words from Director Vaughn echoing like a warning in his skull. The Watchers fear us. They've watched us for centuries. Now, They're preparing to isolate Earth. You are a spearhead. Find out what they want before it's too late." The irony was not lost on Kale. Humanity, the unpredictable anomaly in the galaxy, was now being hunted by a species whose technology had transcended time and space itself. The Starspear glided silently toward its first target, a gargantuan platform codenamed Obsidian Bastion by orbit analysts. The hull was smooth, reflecting no light, its surface etched with shifting symbols that seemed to pulse in rhythms no human mind was meant to comprehend. Kale signaled his team to prepare for boarding. Lieutenant Mira Chin's voice crackled over the comm, steady despite the tension. "We're approaching the airlock. Sensors show no life signs, but the platform is humming with energy." Kale nodded to himself. "Keep your eyes open. This isn't a welcoming committee." The boarding ramp extended and hissed as the Starspear docked. In the cold silence of the airlock, the team donned their adaptive exosuits, neural interfaces syncing their minds for enhanced reflexes and communication. Inside, the station was a labyrinth of impossible geometry. Walls shimmered and twisted, corridors folding in on themselves like a living puzzle. The very fabric of space seemed altered. Gravity fluctuated in strange pockets, and ambient light bent in unnatural hues. Kale led the team cautiously forward. "This architecture isn't just functional," Mira whispered. "It's a language." Alira Voss's earlier theories about the probe resonated in Kale's mind. The Watchers weren't merely observers. They were artists of reality, shaping space and time into cryptic messages. They reached the command center, a spherical chamber lined with pulsating panels and a central console radiating energy. Kale approached, his neural interface linking with the console. The system flared to life, displaying swirling patterns and alien glyphs. On it, Kale muttered, fingers dancing over the interface. Suddenly, the chamber shook as a low vibration rolled through the station. "Hostiles!" Mira shouted as an alarm blared. Dark shapes emerged from hidden compartments. Biomechanical sentinels, part machine, part living organism. Their forms were fluid, shifting between solid metal and organic tissue. Kale and his team opened fire. The battle was fierce and chaotic, bullets meeting liquid metal, energy pulses slicing through the air. The Sentinels adapted rapidly, analyzing human tactics and countering with brutal efficiency. Kale gritted his teeth. "Focus fire on the joints. They're vulnerable there." One by one, the Sentinels collapsed, but more surged from the shadows. Amid the chaos, Kale's neural interface connected deeper with the console, triggering a hidden subroutine. A holographic star map appeared, pinpointing a location far beyond Pluto, a dark rift in space, marked with the same spiral skull symbol Alira had seen on the probe. "This must be their staging ground," Kale said grimly. "Then we need to get this data back," Mira replied, scanning for extraction routes. Kale nodded. "Mission isn't over yet." Back on Earth, Alira was racing against time. She poured over the probe's data with her team, decoding layers of encrypted messages. The Watcher's communications revealed startling truths, ancient archives of cosmic events, histories of civilizations lost to time, and warnings etched in starlight. Among the revelations was a prophecy, an ancient war between the Watchers and a mysterious force known only as the Veil, a dark entity that consumed stars and civilizations, leaving only silence. The Watchers had acted as guardians, watching from the shadows, intervening only when the Veil threatened. And now, the Veil was awakening again. Alira's phone buzzed, a secure message from Kale. "We've located the Watcher's staging ground. The data includes coordinates and a warning. Need extraction. Situation deteriorating." Her heart pounded. The mission had escalated beyond reconnaissance. "Prepare extraction protocols," she ordered. "We're sending a team to support the Starspear." In the cold void, Kale's team fought to secure the data and escape the Obsidian Bastion. As they raced through twisting corridors, more Sentinels pursued them relentlessly, their liquid metal limbs reshaped with terrifying speed. At the airlock, Kale initiated a self-destruct sequence to prevent the station from falling into enemy hands. "Time to go," he shouted. The team sprinted to the shuttle, hearts hammering as explosions rocked the station behind them. Returning to Earth orbit, Kale's shuttle docked with the Starspear. He handed over the stolen data to Orbit Command, weary but determined. Director Vaughn received the transmission, his expression grave. "This changes everything," he said. "The Watchers are preparing for war." Alira looked at the star map on the screen, the coordinates to the dark rift in the Kuiper Belt. The stage was set. Humanity was no longer a bystander. It was a player. As the stars blinked silently outside the station's windows, Alira whispered to herself, "We were never alone. And now, we're not just being watched. We're being hunted." The revelation hit Earth's Defense Council like a thunderclap. The Veil, a name whispered only in the darkest corners of Orbit's archives, until now dismissed as myth or legend, a cosmic predator that devoured stars and extinguished entire civilizations without mercy. It was the ultimate nightmare, a force of annihilation so profound that even the Watchers, masters of technology and guardians of the galaxy, feared it. Now, it was awakening again, and humanity stood squarely in the path of its shadow. In the dimly lit war room beneath Orbit headquarters, Alira Voss sat among the top military commanders and scientists. The holographic star map dominated the chamber's center, glowing ominously with the location of the dark rift. "This is where it all began," Alira said, her voice steady despite the weight of the news. "The Veil emerged from this rift millennia ago, consuming entire star systems." General Rykov, a hardened veteran with decades of experience in space warfare, leaned forward. "If the Watchers have been guarding us against this, why reveal themselves now? Why send a warning at all?" Alira paused. "Because the Watchers are preparing. The probe's destruction triggered their contingency plan. They fear the Veil's return is imminent, and they believe Earth may be crucial in the coming conflict." Outside the council chamber, the world was already changing. News of the Watchers' existence leaked through underground networks and encrypted channels. The public faced a wave of disbelief, fear, and fascination. Religious sects claimed prophecy fulfilled. Scientists scrambled to reevaluate humanity's place in the cosmos, and governments raced to unify or seize power. Among the chaos, the Starscard program was quietly ramped up. Cale Rourke and his team were recalled for advanced training and augmentation. The stakes had never been higher. In a hidden biolab deep beneath the Nevada desert, Cale sat reclined in a sleek medical chair, neural links connecting him to a vast network of synthetic cognition. Dr. Amara Velasquez, Orbit's leading bioengineer, monitored his vitals closely. "We're pushing your enhancements to the next level," she explained. "Your reflexes, cognitive processing, even your genetic resilience, all amplified. You'll be faster, stronger, and more resistant to the unknown." Cale flexed his enhanced limbs, feeling the hum of nanomachines coursing beneath his skin. "If the Veil is what you say, then I'll need every advantage." Meanwhile, Alira's team worked frantically to decrypt the final layer of the Watcher's message. Embedded within the alien data was a warning and a plea. The Watchers had not only observed humanity, but had subtly guided human evolution, seeding genetic markers and technological blueprints across centuries. Earth was no accident. It was a carefully nurtured battleground, a cradle for a species meant to stand against the encroaching darkness. Alira read aloud to the team, voice barely containing awe. "You are the Sentinels, the fire forged in stars' ashes. When the Veil awakens, you will either be its doom or its fuel." The Council approved an unprecedented initiative, Project Fireborn. It was a bold plan to harness human creativity, resilience, and adaptability as weapons. Soldiers like Cale would be the spearhead, but scientists, engineers, and even artists were enlisted to forge new technologies and strategies inspired by the Watchers' cryptic designs. In the months that followed, Earth transformed. Massive orbital factories churned out hybrid tech, biomechanical exosuits, adaptive energy shields, quantum communication arrays. Underground bunkers became hubs for rapid prototyping and neural training. The boundaries between human and machine blurred in the name of survival. Cale's team, now dubbed the Fireborn, underwent grueling training to master their enhanced abilities and alien weapons recovered from the Watcher's relics. During one late-night simulation, Cale sparred with Mirachin in a zero-gravity chamber. Mira feinted a strike, then pivoted with impossible speed. "You've been holding back." Cale smiled wryly. Someone's got to keep you on your toes. Myra's expression softened. We're the last line. If we fail, Earth falls. Kale's eyes hardened. Then we won't fail. But not everyone embraced the changes. Among the ranks, dissent simmered. Those fearful of losing their humanity to technology, wary of alien influence. Illyra faced growing pressure from political factions demanding transparency or outright surrender. One night, in a quiet corridor, she confronted a shadowed figure. Are we becoming what we fear? A voice whispered. Illyra turned to see an old colleague, Dr. Raj Patel, his eyes filled with doubt. If the Watchers are guiding us, what happens when their war ends? Will we still be human, or just another weapon in a cosmic game? Illyra met his gaze, resolute. We're more than that. We're the future. As Earth prepared for war, a new transmission arrived, this time from the dark rift itself. A distorted voice, ancient and resonant, echoed through all channels simultaneously. Your fire burns bright, little sentinels, but the veil devours all light. Prepare to be consumed. The message was a challenge, a warning. The shadows of the veil were closing. Kale stared into the starry abyss, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down. This was no longer a battle for survival. It was a war for the soul of humanity, and the fire within would either forge a new dawn or be extinguished forever. The moment had arrived. The Star Spear was no longer just a stealth cruiser. It was humanity's spearhead thrusting into the heart of the unknown. Captain Kale Rourke stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the navigation display as the ship plunged toward the coordinates etched in the Watcher's star map. Beyond the Kuiper Belt lay the dark rift, a swirling void where stars flickered and died, where light itself seemed to shudder in fear. Ready for the jump, Captain, said Lieutenant Mirachin, her fingers poised over the controls. Kale nodded. Execute on my mark. The crew held their breath. The quantum drive engaged, warping space around them. Reality twisted and bent, colors bleeding into one another as the ship vanished from known space. Moments later, or was it hours, they emerged into a fractured dimension unlike anything recorded. They found themselves floating before a celestial maelstrom, a storm of black energy and torn starlight, circling the gaping maw of the rift. Around the edges, twisted remnants of destroyed starships, ancient Watchers' relics, and alien debris drifted like cosmic flotsam. Kale swallowed hard. This was the Veil's lair. Sensors flickered, unable to penetrate the void's strange energies. The Star Spear's shields glowed with strained effort, repelling the malevolent force pressing against them. We're inside the Veil's event horizon, Mira said grimly. Systems are fluctuating. Communications are spotty. Kale looked at his crew, their faces tight with determination. We have one objective: find the source of the signal we detected and gather intel. The longer we stay, the greater the risk. The Star Spear descended toward a colossal structure embedded in the rift's edge, an enormous, dark fortress carved from asteroid rock, encrusted with pulsating veins of energy that seemed alive. Illyra's decoded message had called it the necropolis of stars. Kale's pulse quickened. This was no mere base. It was a tomb and a beacon. As the cruiser docked, eerie silence filled the corridors. The crew moved cautiously, neural links attuned to detect any anomaly. The air was thick with static, and the walls vibrated with a low hum. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. From the shadows, figures emerged, the Veil's emissaries. They were neither fully machine nor fully organic, bodies shifting between solid and intangible states, their eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. Kale raised his pulse rifle. The firefight erupted. Bullets and energy beams collided with the eerie beings. The Veil's emissaries phased in and out of reality, slipping past defenses, attacking with ruthless precision. Fall back to the core chamber, Kale commanded. Amid the chaos, Kale's neural interface synced with the ship's AI, running scans for any usable data. There, deep within the fortress, was the source of the signal, a cryptic device radiating an otherworldly pulse. Illyra had called it the heart of the Veil. Kale's team fought through corridors warped by the Veil's dark energy, encountering traps and illusions designed to disorient and break their minds. Each step closer to the heart revealed fragments of a cosmic horror, visions of worlds consumed, stars snuffed out, and civilizations turned to silence. But there was also a strange hope. etched in alien runes alongside warnings. Finally, they reached the chamber. The heart pulsed rhythmically, a dark crystal suspended in a web of glowing tendrils, feeding on the energy of the rift. Kale connected his neural link to the device, risking overload. Visions flooded his mind, memories of the Watcher's last stand, their sacrifices, and the origins of the Veil. He saw the dark entity not as a mindless force, but a corrupted intelligence, born from a cosmic fracture, an ancient guardian turned predator. Kale understood then what the Watchers had meant by fuel. The Veil fed on destruction, but also on fear and chaos. Humanity's unpredictable spirit, its refusal to bow, was a threat and a beacon, but there was a way to fight back. Within the heart was a kernel of Watcher technology, a seed of creation embedded in destruction. If activated, it could reverse the rift's expansion, but only if synchronized with a living mind. Kale volunteered. The process was agonizing. Neural feedback surged, memories merging with alien data streams. Kale's body strained against the mental tide, but he held firm. The heart responded. Light flared inside the chamber as the rift's dark energy recoiled. Outside, the fortress trembled. The Veil's emissaries converged for a final assault. Kale's team formed a protective circle, buying him time. At the climax, a blinding burst of light erupted from the heart. The rift began to close. The Veil's presence waned. The Starspear was caught in the backlash, systems failing as they raced back to the quantum drive. With a desperate leap, Kale ordered the jump. The ship shattered the void's grasp, tumbling back into known space. Safe, but changed. The rift was sealed for now, but Kale knew this was only the beginning. The Veil was patient, and the war for humanity's future was far from over. The Starspear's engines thrummed softly as it coasted through the void back toward Earth's orbit. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy, exhaustion, relief, and a shared sense of victory mingled uneasily with the deeper dread lingering beneath. Kale Rourke slumped in the captain's chair, muscles tense, but mind racing. The mission had been a success. The rift was sealed, the heart of the Veil neutralized, and humanity had survived a brush with extinction. Yet, the victory felt hollow. In the weeks that followed, Earth held its breath. The Defense Council convened an emergency session. Alira Voss addressed a packed chamber of global leaders, scientists, and military commanders. The rift's closure is not permanent, she warned. The Veil is ancient, patient, and adaptable. What we sealed today may reopen tomorrow or somewhere else. We are dealing with a cosmic force beyond anything humanity has ever faced. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. Our future depends on how we respond, not just with weapons, but with knowledge, unity, and vigilance. On the media fronts, the story was sanitized. Public broadcasts focused on the bravery of the Starscard team and the triumph of science and human spirit. But underground forums buzzed with rumors and speculation. Was the Veil truly defeated? What had Kale seen in the Heart's visions? Were there other such rifts lurking in the galaxy? Kale's team was hailed as heroes, but the psychological toll was clear. In the quiet moments, Kale wrestled with the memories the Heart had imprinted on his mind, the cosmic scale of destruction, the ancient Watcher's sacrifice, and the Veil's true nature. The darkness he had glimpsed wasn't just external. It was a reflection of fears buried deep within humanity, fear of oblivion, fear of losing control, fear of becoming the very monsters they fought. Mira Chin was the first to speak out. During a debriefing, she voiced what many felt but no one dared admit. We fought with everything we had, but what if it's not enough? The Veil is more than a threat. It's a test. Are we ready for what comes next? Alira took that challenge seriously. She proposed Project Reckoning, an ambitious initiative to expand humanity's understanding of the Veil through interdisciplinary research combining quantum physics, biology, and ancient alien technology. Scientists, philosophers, and even artists were recruited to explore new ways of thinking and perceiving reality, to harness the human mind's unique creativity as a weapon against cosmic entropy. Kale was skeptical. Science alone can't win this war, he told Alira during a late-night strategy session. We need to understand who we are, our strengths, our flaws. Only then can we become what the Watchers hoped we would be. Alira nodded. That's why the reckoning isn't just scientific. It's cultural, psychological, spiritual. Meanwhile, tension simmered on Earth. Political factions jockeyed for power amid fears of invasion. Some advocated for increased militarization. Others urged diplomacy with the Watchers, hoping to broker a lasting alliance. Kale found himself caught between the extremes, wary of both blind aggression and naive trust. In a rare moment of downtime, Kale visited the memorial site for the Watchers, a quiet park beneath an artificial night sky, stars recreated with holographic precision. He stood before the monument, fingers tracing the carved symbols of sacrifice and hope. Mira joined him silently. "Do you ever wonder if we're destined to follow their path?" she asked softly. "To become guardians or destroyers?" Kale looked up at the simulated stars. "I think we're something new, something they couldn't predict." The crew's reflections were interrupted by a sharp alert. The Star Spear's sensors had detected a faint but unusual signal, an echo of the heart's pulse, coming from a distant quadrant near the galactic core. Alira's voice crackled over the comms, tense but resolute. "This isn't over. The Veil's shadow stretches further than we imagined. We have to prepare." Kale clenched his fists. The Abyss had not relinquished its secrets, and humanity's true battle was only beginning. But for the first time, he believed they could face the darkness and emerge not just survivors, but star-scarred, forged by fire and ready to burn bright. The Star Spear hummed quietly in orbit around Earth, a sentinel in the void, but its crew's minds were far from peaceful. The faint signal detected near the galactic core was more than just a remnant of the heart's pulse. It was a message deliberately encoded and broadcasted. And this message carried with it the weight of forgotten history, a revelation that could change everything humanity thought it knew about the Veil, the Watchers, and themselves. Kale Rourke paced the bridge, his eyes scanning the star maps as Alira Voss worked with her team to decode the signal. "This isn't just a distress call or a warning," Alira said, her voice steady but edged with urgency. "It's a record, a story." Mirachin leaned over a console, fingers flying across holographic keys. "From the data fragments we've pieced together, it appears to be a chronicle of the Watchers' final days before the Veil consumed their civilization." Kale folded his arms. "What does it say?" Alira pulled up a sequence of images, cracked, glowing runes, scenes of starships aflame, and cryptic symbols. Then came the most startling part, an encoded message in the Watchers' language that had been lost to time, now partially deciphered. The Watchers weren't just observers, Alira explained. They were ancient warriors and guardians, charged with containing the Veil. But as the Veil's corruption spread, it consumed their worlds and twisted their purpose. Some Watchers resisted the corruption, others succumbed. Kale listened closely, absorbing the weight of the revelation. The Watchers' fall wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. Their advanced technology and knowledge had failed to stop the Veil. The very powers they wielded had been turned against them. "We're dealing with an enemy that adapts, corrupts, and consumes," Kale said quietly. "It doesn't just destroy, it transforms." Mira nodded. "And their message implies there may be remnants of uncorrupted Watchers scattered across the galaxy, possibly allies or threats." That possibility sparked a new urgency. The crew prepared an expedition beyond the rift's former boundaries, seeking out fragments of Watcher technology and survivors who might hold the key to turning the tide. Kale volunteered to lead the mission personally. Days later, aboard the Star Spear, the team entered an uncharted system near the galactic core, where ancient Watcher ruins were detected on a desolate moon. The ruins were colossal, monolithic towers and sprawling complexes carved from crystal and dark metal, etched with glowing glyphs that pulsed faintly. Kale felt a chill as he stepped onto the moon's surface. This was a tomb and a library, a place of memory and loss. Inside the ruins, the team uncovered chambers filled with advanced technology fused with organic elements, devices that seemed to live and breathe, their purpose both scientific and mystical. Alira analyzed one such artifact, a crystalline sphere emitting low-frequency vibrations. "It's a data core," she said, encoded with knowledge the Watchers deemed vital. Kale connected the neural interface, bracing for another flood of visions. the visions came swiftly. He saw the rise of the Watchers as protectors of the galaxy, their vast civilization spanning countless stars. He saw their first encounters with the Veil, how they underestimated its power, how their society fractured between those who sought to fight and those who wished to contain. The visions revealed a heartbreaking truth. The Watchers' greatest failure was not their technology, but their inability to unify against the threat. Back in reality, Kale shuddered. The lesson was clear. Humanity had to avoid the Watchers' mistakes. Division and distrust would be their downfall. We need to forge alliances, Kale said, not just on Earth, but with any surviving Watchers or other civilizations threatened by the Veil. Suddenly, the ruined systems activated, flooding the chamber with light and sound. A holographic figure appeared, a Watcher, radiating an aura of calm authority. "I am Kalen, last guardian of the lost star," the figure intoned. "You who awaken the past must prepare for the future. The Veil's hunger is eternal, but so is hope." The crew listened as Kalen spoke of an ancient plan, an interstellar coalition of races that once stood against the Veil. The coalition had been shattered by fear and betrayal, but its remnants might still be found. "We offer you knowledge and guidance," Kalen said, "but the choice to stand or fall lies with you." Kale's heart pounded. This was the chance to change fate, to build a future where humanity could survive and thrive. He turned to his crew. "We're not alone in this fight." As they prepared to depart, Kalen's final words echoed in their minds. "The echoes of the past will shape the dawn of a new age. Trust in yourselves and in each other." The Star Spear lifted off, carrying not just survivors, but the seed of a new hope. The mission had revealed truths buried by time, but it also marked the beginning of a larger journey. The Veil was still out there, patient and ravenous, but humanity, star-scarred and resolute, was ready to answer the call. The Star Spear cruised steadily through the vast emptiness between stars, its sleek form a beacon of human determination. But beyond the ship's hull, the galaxy was a tapestry of unknown factions, old grudges, and fragile hopes. In the wake of the revelations from the ancient Watcher ruins, Captain Kale Rourke and his crew faced a challenge far greater than any battle: the forging of alliances with beings who might not welcome humanity's arrival. The message from Kalen, the Watcher Guardian, had stirred something in the wider cosmos. Word traveled through whispered channels and encrypted networks, reaching ears both curious and cautious. The Veil's threat was not unknown to other civilizations, many of which had suffered its shadow in silence. But decades of isolation, mistrust, and survival had frayed the bonds between them. Elira Voss sat in the conference room of the Star Spear, a holographic map of known inhabited sectors rotating slowly above the table. Around her, the senior officers and diplomats prepared for the unprecedented diplomatic mission ahead. "This won't be easy," Elira began, her voice measured but resolute. "We're asking species who have survived alone, who have scars deeper than ours, to stand together. They might see us as competition, or worse, as new threats." Kale leaned forward, fingers steepled. "We have no choice. The Veil doesn't discriminate. It consumes all. If we don't unite, we fall alone." The first stop was the Alarion Cluster, a system known for its powerful warrior clans and staunch independence. Their ships were legendary for speed and firepower, but their diplomacy was precarious at best. As the Star Spear approached the Alarion flagship, Kale and Elira prepared for first contact. The clan leader, Warlord Svarthal, was known throughout the sector as unyielding and proud. The meeting was tense from the start. Svarthal's towering figure loomed over the conference table, his many eyes flickering with suspicion. "Humans," he growled. "Why should we trust those who have not faced the Veil as long as we have? What makes you worthy of our alliance?" Kale met his gaze evenly. "Because we're alive, and we're willing to fight. Because if we don't join forces, none of us will survive. The Veil is patient, and it's coming for us all." Svarthal laughed, a harsh, guttural sound. "Words are wind, Captain. Show me your strength." The Star Spear's crew was prepared. They demonstrated their advanced technology, their successful sealing of the rift, and shared data recovered from the Watcher's archives. The tactical simulations revealed the Veil's adaptability and the necessity for coordinated defense. Gradually, Svarthal's stance softened, not out of trust, but respect for Kale's resolve. "We will not be puppets," Svarthal said, "but we will watch, and if your fire burns true, we may stand with you." Next, the Starspear traveled to the Solara Expanse, home to the Solari, a telepathic species with a rich history of spiritual insight but wary of war. Their envoy, Priestess Vnail, welcomed the humans with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "The Veil corrupts not only flesh but mind," she warned. "To fight it, you must first conquer your own shadows." Alira engaged with Vnail in deep dialogue about the Reckoning Project, emphasizing the fusion of science and spirituality to unlock new forms of resistance. The Solari shared their own ancient wisdom, meditative techniques, and psychic defenses that might shield the crew from the Veil's psychological assaults. Amidst these fragile talks, Kale found himself wrestling with his own doubts. Could humanity truly bridge the gulf between warrior clans, telepathic mystics, and other alien civilizations? Was the hope of alliance a fragile dream? He sought counsel in quiet moments from Mira Chan, whose optimism balanced his caution. "We faced impossible odds before," she reminded him. "It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing." Back on Earth, political tensions escalated. Not all factions welcomed the idea of alliances with alien species. Fear and xenophobia threatened to unravel the fragile unity gained after the Rift Crisis. Kale and Alira received cryptic warnings, shadow groups working against the coalition, seeking to exploit the Veil's threat for their own ends. The Starspear's diplomatic mission continued, visiting several other species, each with their own cultures, histories, and reasons to distrust. But through dialogue, shared struggles, and demonstrations of mutual respect, tentative alliances began to form. These were alliances forged not in ease, but in shadow, between distrust and hope, fear and courage. One night, aboard the Starspear, Kale stood on the observation deck, staring into the vastness. Alira joined him, breaking the silence. "Do you believe we can hold this together?" Kale exhaled slowly. "We don't have a choice. The Veil won't wait for us to be ready." Alira smiled faintly. "Then we make ready." As the chapter closed, a new signal was detected, a cryptic beacon from deep within the Veil's territory, signaling that the darkness was not idle. The galaxy was holding its breath, and humanity was no longer alone. The Starspear sailed through the void, a fragile beacon of hope surrounded by the infinite darkness of space. Its hull shimmered under the light of distant stars, but aboard the ship, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. The fragile alliances forged with the Alarian clans, the Solari mystics, and other scattered races were still tenuous. Trust was in short supply, and old wounds lingered beneath the surface. But now, more pressing was the ominous warning arriving from deep within the Veil's shadow. The cryptic beacon they had detected was no simple signal. It was a summons, a declaration. Something ancient and terrible was awakening, preparing for the storm. Kale Rourke stood on the bridge, staring at the display showing the location of the mysterious beacon. The readings came from a sector known as the Black Shard, a region where the Veil's corruption was densest, and from where few who entered ever returned. Alira Voss approached, her face pale but resolute. "We've analyzed the signal," she said quietly. "It's a challenge or a warning. Something wants to test us." Kale frowned. "The Veil never sends warnings, which means this is something different. Something intelligent." The crew moved swiftly to prepare the Starspear for what might be the gravest encounter yet. Systems were checked and reinforced, weapon arrays recalibrated, and shields boosted to maximum. Meanwhile, diplomatic envoys from the recently allied species gathered aboard the ship. The Alarion warlords, Solari mystics, and representatives from the Drakari Hive, an insectoid race known for their strategic genius, conferred with the human leaders. Uneasy unity. The tension among the diverse coalition was palpable. Svarthal, the Alarion warlord, paced impatiently. "If this is a challenge, I say we answer with fire. No talking." Vnail, the Solari priestess, countered softly, "Violence will only deepen the Veil's shadow. We must seek understanding first." Kale raised a hand to quiet the room. We don't have the luxury of division, he said firmly. If we fall apart now, the veil will consume us all. Despite his words, Kale understood the gravity of the task. The coalition was fragile, built on necessity more than trust. Old rivalries and cultural divides simmered beneath every gesture. Still, the shared threat of the veil forced them to act as one, at least for now. Into the black shard. As the star spear approached the coordinates of the beacon, the darkness deepened, stars disappearing behind swirling tendrils of black energy. The ship's sensors struggled to penetrate the veil of corruption surrounding the sector. Narration monitored the readings anxiously. This place, it's like a wound in space itself, she reported. Energy readings are off the charts. Alira tapped into the Watcher archives for guidance. According to the data cores, this region was once a Watcher stronghold, a fortress against the veil. Something here still resists. Suddenly, the Star Spear's alarms blared. Something massive moved in the shadows, a colossal, writhing mass of dark energy and metal, part machine, part living nightmare. The crew scrambled to battle stations. The Veil's emissary. The entity emerged from the darkness, a towering figure forged from corrupted Watcher technology and Veil tendrils, pulsating with malevolent intelligence. It spoke in a voice that echoed in their minds. Humans and their allies, you trespass in the domain of oblivion. Your defiance is a spark in the endless night. Kale squared his shoulders. We come to end your shadow, not be consumed by it. The battle was fierce. Energy beams scorched the void, and the Star Spear's shields flared under the assault. The coalition forces coordinated, combining Alarion firepower, Solari psychic defenses, and Drakari tactical maneuvers. For every strike the Veil's emissary landed, the coalition responded with resolve, turning the tide. Amid the chaos, Alira and Mira worked to decipher the emissary's core, looking for a weakness. The Watcher technology here is fused with Veil energy, but I see a pattern, Alira said, eyes glowing with excitement. It's a corrupted beacon, a node in the Veil's network. If we can disrupt it, we can weaken the entire sector. Kale nodded. Target the node. The coalition focused their firepower on the emissary's core. The battle roared as energy surged and systems strained. Finally, with a massive explosion of light, the node was severed. The emissary screamed, a sound that was both mechanical and organic, and dissolved into the shadows. Aftermath and reflection. The black shard began to recede, the veil of corruption lifting as the Star Spear's sensors detected returning stars in stabilizing space. Kale allowed himself a rare moment of relief, but the victory was bittersweet. We've only delayed the inevitable, he said grimly. The veil adapts. It grows. Nail stepped forward, placing a hand on Kale's arm. Yet, in our unity, we have found strength. The storm gathers, but together, we can weather it. As the coalition prepared to move onward, the crew of the Star Spear knew the battle was far from over. The galaxy was awakening. The true war was just beginning. The void had grown quiet, but the Star Spear's crew knew the calm was a fragile veil over a brewing storm. After the harrowing battle in the Black Shard and the tentative victories won through fragile alliances, a new chapter was unfolding, one that would define the fate of humanity and its newfound coalition. A new beginning. The Star Spear emerged from the depths of the Black Shard, its hull scarred but intact, a symbol of perseverance. As the coalition representatives gathered once more, the weight of what they had achieved and what still lay ahead settled heavily upon their shoulders. Kale Rourke stood before the assembly, the vast conference room filled with beings from dozens of worlds, their faces a mosaic of cultures and species. They were warriors, mystics, strategists, enemies only months ago, now allies united by survival. We have fought darkness together and survived, Kale said, voice steady and commanding. But survival is not enough. We must build something stronger, a covenant forged not by fear, but by hope and trust. The covenant formed. Alira Voss stepped forward, her eyes bright with determination. This covenant will bind us, sharing technology, knowledge, and defense. It will be the foundation of a united front against the Veil and any threat that seeks to tear us apart. Svarthal, the Alarion warlord, gave a rare nod of approval. Strength through unity, he said gruffly. Perhaps there is wisdom in this after all. Priestess Vnale from the Solari added, let this covenant honor not just our might, but our spirit. We must grow beyond old wounds, a vision for the future. The coalition representatives debated and shaped the framework of the new covenant. Committees were formed for shared defense, scientific research, cultural exchange, and even joint exploration beyond known space. Narration was appointed as the chief liaison for human interests, her diplomatic skills bridging gaps even where suspicion lingered. Humanity's strength is in its adaptability, Mira said during one session. We must listen as much as we speak. Shadows remain. Yet, even as hope blossomed, shadows lurked. Back on Earth and other homeworlds, factions opposed the new alliances. Political leaders wary of alien influence stirred unrest. Kale and Alira received intelligence about covert sabotage attempts, data breaches aimed at destabilizing the coalition's fragile infrastructure. We have enemies within, Alira warned. Not all fears are unfounded, but fear itself can be a weapon. The true nature of the Veil. In the days that followed, the Watcher archives revealed a deeper truth about the Veil. It was not merely a force of destruction, but a parasite feeding on fear, division, and despair, growing stronger when civilizations turned against each other. This revelation strengthened the coalition's resolve. If the Veil thrived on discord, then the new Covenant's unity was the true weapon against it. Preparing for the inevitable, the Star Spear and allied fleets began joint training exercises, melding tactics and technologies from their diverse members. Scientists worked side by side, unraveling the Veil's secrets and developing new defenses inspired by the Watcher's ancient wisdom. Kale stood watching a simulation of a Veil assault, the combined fleets moving as one. We may not be able to stop the Veil from coming, Kale mused, but we can ensure it meets a galaxy united and unyielding. Personal reflections. Amid the grand strategy, Kale found moments of quiet reflection. He thought of the Watchers, guardians of knowledge who had sacrificed themselves so that others might live. He thought of his crew, of Alira, Mira, and all who had stood by him through the darkest nights. And he thought of humanity, not perfect, often divided, but always capable of rising beyond its limits. The first step beyond, the new covenant declared its intention to explore further reaches of space, to seek other civilizations, to find more allies, and to learn from the galaxy's many mysteries. The Starspear was chosen as the flagship of this new era. As it prepared to leave the Black Shard behind, Kale addressed his crew one last time before the next chapter. We've stared into the abyss and found each other. Now, we step forward, not just to survive, but to thrive. A galaxy transformed. The chapter closed on a hopeful note. The stars once shrouded by fear and silence now shimmered with the light of new possibilities. The new covenant was fragile but alive, a testament to what could be achieved when species put aside ancient fears and embraced unity. Humanity, once isolated and vulnerable, was now a beacon, a spark igniting a galaxy ready to face the coming storm together.